Every company needs a strong set of branding. Branding is very important both to make the business look professional, but also display the characteristics of the business to its clients and audience. The way that a business is portrayed in its branding can completely change the way it's being perceived by its audience. Hi, my name is Katherine Briley, and this is my branding portfolio. In all my branding, I really make sure that I get the feeling of the company out in the colors, in the shapes and photos, and in the font. I really go through every aspect, make sure that it's all working together, but then it's also all working towards a common goal.
So for this first style guide, this was the first style guide I ever created, the first really branding experience I had besides just creating logos. It was for Boundless Web Design, which is a web hosting company. They had this whole ninja stuff going on, and they really had these two colors that I came up with that were very vibrant, very fun, a little bit darker and more serious, but also had, when used in the right context, could be very fun, very ninja-ish. And so I really needed to find a font that had that ninja aspect, and so I went with this almost blade-like font that had very, straight edges, very sharp edges, and then a simple font for the paragraph. And then I went with some grays and some blacks and whites for other color accents, and really showed in the whole style guide ways to use the colors, ways to use the logo, ways to use the font, and even where to put graphics on a web page or an animation or a advertisement, a web advertisement or a billboard, etc. And I really went in deep to show a lot of the uses of the different branding experience. The only thing I really wish I could have done better was I think that especially for the stationery pages, I feel like I should have showed how to use color more in those, but other than that, the company was really happy and I was really happy. For this next piece, this was a logo I actually did for a project at school. We were rebranding a local brand, and I chose Atlanta Perfumes and Retail, and I first did the logo. I wanted it to be very nature-ish, very clean cut, and have the letters and have a nature roll. And then we went on to do a campaign. So as you can see, we just went through the email. It has a lot of images, a lot of soft, welcoming, trustworthy colors. I really wanted to get a trustworthy vibe into the brand itself. Then we went to do advertising. I wanted to have this fun, welcoming vibe, but I also wanted to include how diverse Atlanta was, so I used a lot of different words and different languages that different people of the community could recognize. With just a lot of actually photography from the area around the shop. I walked around the shop and just took pictures. Then I created a style guide. I showed different imagery, different fonts. I tried to use soft fonts, a very welcoming, trustworthy looking font, and then all the colors for the brand itself. And lastly, I created this print. This is what people would hand out in the shop. It folds up and then folds out to be a wreath that you could keep in the home. And then I also created this stationery, again, soft edges, that classic orange that I've been using throughout the whole project, and then just almost a naturey vibe without being too much like perfume, nature, but also something that would, have allude to the welcomingness of the shop, but also be simple and balanced. So again, envelopes, stationery, business cards all went in that same vibe. So this project was also for school. This was a repackaging of a tea brand, just a normal tea brand that I found at the local grocery store, and thought the packaging was a little outdated, so I decided to update it. The whole idea of this packaging was that it was a way to organize tea containers, so the containers would stack and be easily fit on a shelf, but also had a little flap that opened up that you could pull tea bags out of. I wanted to go for a more vibe that would go towards the younger audience, so I went with a very almost millennial coloring scheme and really pretty patterns, but not so modern that a lot of an older audience wouldn't still want to buy the brand and keep buying the brand. This next project was for a lady who sells essential oils on her Etsy shop. This woman had a very, almost cutesy, sweet, artsy vibe to her shop, and I really wanted to include that with very cutesy colors, very bright, very happy, as well as using that watercolor stain to kind of get that artsy vibe, but also have it still be professional, very professional font to even out the artsiness of the background of the labels, as well as just having all the information for the labels themselves. I think that was the biggest challenge, was just having all the information that I needed to get on there on such a small label. This project was a booklet. We were actually branding a font, a type font, showing off the types of type fonts. This is a school project again, just ways that you can use the type font, and we were challenged to only use that font, so we couldn't use any shapes or anything other than the font itself. So it was a challenge to use pieces of the font to create the feeling that I wanted to, and we had a theme of, well, we had to pick a theme for the booklet itself, and I chose rock climbing, and so I had to use that font in order to, explain rock climbing, explain how to rock climb, explain the different, tool sets that you would need to start rock climbing. And I actually had a lot of fun because the type font I chose, and purposely did this, had a lot of angular, very simple sides, which I could use to kind of imitate a mountainside or even ropes or different tools, and so it was a lot of fun to be able to kind of use that font to be able to do that. I think the biggest challenge was getting all the information on there, and it really challenged me to up my organization game, or organizing game, and organize that content onto the piece itself. So, and then with colors, I really needed to choose something outdoorsy, something that would really show off the theme, but also show off the font. So I needed a lot of contrast, a lot of professional looking colors, but also colors that would imitate rocks or nature, without being too obvious about it. Of course, you don't want to be too cliche with any design. So went with a lot of grays, a lot of purples, which are very similar to grays, and a lot of rocks have that purpley tint, and then an off blue that could imitate foliage in the outdoors as well.
Thank you for watching my branding portfolio. If you would like your business branded, please contact me using the contact sheet at the bottom of my website. Thanks. Cheers.